Hey everybody, welcome to Guitareo Live, this week's edition. And the gentleman sitting next to me is a special guest, but he's not really a guest because he is the latest member of the Guitareo team. Tee Rahimoglu is the guy, if you've sent an email into us, you know Tee because he's the guy that answers and helps you out with all your troubles, guitar questions, support questions, all the things like that. And he's going to be talking to us today about melodic playing. And I just saw you play for the first time ever, in private public. It was at a concert that you're putting on with your friends about, what was it, 4 or 5 months ago?
Yeah.
And I was really impressed. At that time, he wasn't working for Guitareo, but I'm glad he is now.
I think you made an impression, hopefully.
Yeah, it was great. So this topic, melodic playing, is something that, and I have got to confess, it's a topic that I've kind of dodged and avoided over the years. I remember back when I was working at Guitar Center, fantastic jazz player came in. It's like, man, you got to learn how to sing what you play. You got to learn. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that. So I avoided it.
Yeah.
But in the last couple of years, I've really been interested in it and focusing on it a lot more. And that's shown up in a lot of the courses that we've done. So Tee is going to share with us today how to start making your playing more melodic.
That's right. So if you don't mind, I'll take over.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, thank you for having me over here.
Yeah,
and let's just start by melodic playing. So what is a melody? What is melodic playing on guitar particularly? Melody in technical terms is a short piece of group notes that conveys an emotion, conveys an idea. And usually encompasses pitch, timbre, some sound and tones to it on guitar. For guitar players, obviously distortion, what kind of guitar you're using, electric guitar, it could be a different amp, different distortion pedal, like I said, a delay pedal, just textures really come into play as well. Besides the playing would be included. And then after that is rhythm. So one thing that most people miss when they're talking about melodic playing is the rhythm. The silence is a big part. And how, think of a drummer, doing a drum solo. You can do similar things on guitar while you're playing the melody as well. So in definition, that's kind of what a melody is. And applied to a guitar, it would be, my version would be an idea that you can convey with a time period that you've thought about and you can execute it. Hopefully well. I'll try to do that today. But that's a melody. So in general guitar terms, a lot of people have covered this topic and it's quite different depending on which player you talk to about how to go about melodic playing. And some people focus on more scale values like second, fourth, sixth, and seventh, having more dissonance and a resolve to for the listener, because in the end you're trying to satisfy the listener and convey emotion to tell a story. Other players have, other players have focused on like sequences such as. Just going up and down on a scale, something like that. I don't think that's particularly musical in my sense, and then it doesn't really move me when I listen to things like that. Even before I was playing guitar, I grew up listening to my dad's old rock records. That's kind of where I got all this stuff. And he would play, Allman Brothers Band, Grateful Dead, Clapton at nighttime when we went to sleep. He'd just blast the music. So I kind of grew up listening to that. So all those melodies are kind of embedded to me. So if you're thinking about getting into this, I would highly suggest do a lot of listening. And
we have that in common, man, because you said your dad taught you about playing melodically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad was my first guitar teacher too. So.
Mine too, yeah. So kudos to dads.
Yeah.
They're musical in the house. I didn't appreciate it until I started playing, but then I really started picking up on these things that I've been listening to all my life. Anyway, so let's get back to the topic. So how do we go about melodic playing on guitar? So it doesn't particularly mean lead guitar. I was playing a lot of lead lines. You can do rhythm, just solid rhythm guitar with some different accents. You can convey an emotion, a story, and move people. You want to move people, that's the end goal. So let's go into a bit of detail on what you need in order to start a melodic idea on guitar. First of all, you need an idea. You kind of want to go with it with a melody, and to create the melody, be able to play it is an important part. So first step would be making sure you have the skills needed for what you like to do. So as you can tell, I can do my runs and stuff, but I'm not a super technical player. I like to, if I don't get too excited, pick my notes. So you're going to want to practice your skills and make sure you can convey what's in your head to the guitar. And another suggestion that me and Nate were talking about was singing.
Yeah.
So singing in your heads and being able to convey that on the guitar is a big starter. So I can give you a brief example of that. So let's start with an E major scale here. I'm not the best singer if you haven't noticed. So that'd be like a E major scale. So we can use that and then sing a melody with it. Something like that, or just make up on the spot. That just gives you confidence and control over what's in your head and being able to relay that on the guitar. So that's the first step. Second step is your fingers. You want to warm up and make sure you practice your scales so then you can move around the guitar and get different sounds from different strings. And one thing that lots of people miss is you can play the same note in multiple places on guitar and it produces a different sound. So same note could be like an octave. This G note here sounds different on. And then you can play this note on here, but you can hear that it sounds quite bassy. So especially with some vibrato, it sounds, I believe the low strings there are kind of often missed to convey emotion. So we talked about fingers, practicing that. We talked about singing in your head, and then as well as singing to find a melody. So we'll get into that a bit more later on. And then second step for melodic playing is listening. Is a big one.
Like listening to music or?
Listening to greats, yeah.
Okay.
If you can understand how people have been conveying emotion with Cream, for example, White Room is one where he uses the wah pedal and it really conveys emotion while my guitar gently weeps. Mm-hmm. He's really weeping through the guitar solos, things like that. So make sure you listen a lot. Anyway, so I talked a lot. I think we should do some playing. So if you guys want to check it out under your downloads on the live lesson resources on YouTube, I'm not sure if you get that.
Yeah, if they'll go to guitarlessons.com/live, you'll be able to
I've built some exercises for you that you can check out. So we're going to just break down a single melody, a simple melody, and we're going to kind of elaborate on that. So this is something that my dad taught me when I was learning how to solo, is he's just like, okay, you can play this and then play around with it and see what you can do. So I'm going to start with exercise 1 on that sheet. So exercise 1, we're in B. So we're going to start in B major. So that is a simple lead line that I've gathered for you. And then we're going to kind of elaborate on that. So just playing on the 11, 9, 8 on the G string and then going up to the D string and playing the 9th fret. So in the exercises coming up, I'm just going to quickly go over them to kind of give you an idea of how we can elaborate on these simple notes and make it sound more humane. Give it some vibrato, some dynamics, some rhythm, and then we'll jam on that in a little bit.
Cool.
Did you have any questions?
No, like as he was playing that line, like the first thing came into my head was 5, 4, 3, 1. Yeah. Like I'm a numbers guy. Generally, I'm working to where I'm getting to be more of a letters guy too, like the actual notes I'm playing. But like I heard 5, 4, 3, 1, and that comes just from a part of it is working on singing what you're playing, like you were talking right there. Yeah.
So that you're basing that on the scale, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, I was based on B major.
Yeah, you can do that. There's 2 ways to go about it. You can go directly from sound, what you hear and you sing in your head, apply that to the music, or you can approach it the other way around, more of a technical way of, okay, I'm going to end on the third, major third, I'm going to end on the root note, things like that. So my suggestion to you is if you have been doing that, maybe try this just to spice it up a bit. Just don't worry about the technical side, just focus on what you hear in your head and how you can elaborate on that. So I'm going to take that simple line, let's add some distortion on there. So that was exercise 1. Let's look at exercise 2, which brings some full bend on the So that adds a bit of spice on there. It's trying to reach that 11th fret. Exercise 3 is just adding vibrato on the same simple exercise, which is 1.
Right.
Okay, I'll play that again. And the way I do vibrato looks a little weird, but it sounds great. So
I don't think so.
some people do this, and I do that. Kind of shake my whole wrist. Let's go to exercise 4, which includes a bend and vibrato. So it's a bend back down, vibrato on the 8, go to 9.
Yep.
So that's a major line. And then a different version of this would be a minor, kind of more leaned towards the pentatonic. Instead of playing the 8th fret here on the G string, we're going to play the 7th. So that's a kind of minor sound, a more sad sound. So we're going to apply the same dynamics as we did for the other exercises. Let's add a bend going up to it. 7. And then we can also not pick on the second one. So when we're coming down from the bend, you can just let it go and then come back down on its own. Or more like a crying person or even a cat. If you can emulate a cat on a guitar, you're doing a good job. Trust me, I tried. So that was a bend. We'll do a legato slide, which is, and then you can also pick that. Okay. So far, so good, you think?
Yeah.
And then you can do a slide, side back. On the 7th, we can bend it up a quarter bend up there. Kind of go into this sound here, the major. So let me play that again. Right? So it just makes it more humane, adds a bit of flavor, adds a bit of dynamics on when you're picking, and then you can kind of create your own version, own sound of playing the same line that everyone else is playing, but you can really get into what you want to convey.
Like, as you're going through all those examples, like on the first example, the first thing that popped into my head, actually the second one with a bend, I thought saxophone, right?
Yeah.
And that's a lot.
Wing.
It's, on some levels, it's a little bit more, like you said, humane instrument than guitar because you have the reed and you're bending it, you're using air.
That's right.
To bring it out. And every example you hit after that made me think of saxophone, sliding up to the notes, putting vibrato on them. And guys, most of the time I'm teaching lessons, so I'm not sitting here really analyzing what I'm doing and watching myself, but watching him doing the things like bending, sliding, vibrato, those things made me think of a saxophone player and how kind of organic that instrument is and how organic our instrument can be too.
As a guitar player, as you're more lean towards listening to guitar, so I encourage you to listen to saxophone, keys, clarinets, any other instrument that you can find and really listen to how they play the notes, how they approach the notes, how they bend into it. If you can somewhat emulate that on guitar, that gives you an edge.
That's one thing that I'm really guilty of because I just love guitar. So I listen to probably 95% guitar music.
You know who's great with that is Jeff Beck. He does a lot of, that guy's always improved his playing over the years. And he always introduces new sounds and new techniques as he goes. So he'd be one guy to definitely listen to. He's still quite active.
I was in a pool hall about a year ago, and a song came on over the PA, and I was like, who is this? I have to find out who it is right now. I went over there, it's Jeff Beck. I was like, done, bought the album on my phone, like right there. It was one of his newer albums.
Was the new albums with the new bass player and the drummer. The drummer's amazing in that band. Okay, so that's taking the simple line and kind of elaborating on that. We're not going to get in too much detail on how to play the bends and everything. Hopefully it'll be for another lesson. And the other thing that I would suggest practicing would be rhythm. So when you're playing a melodic line, rhythm and silence is quite important. And most guitar players kind of focus on how to play the notes and playing the scales and making sure they're not playing bad notes, and they kind of forget about the silence and how to fill the space, right? Or not fill the space by letting it go. So I would just encourage you to do some simple rhythm exercises, which I actually don't have on the sheet music, but we can just count it. 1, 2. Let me just put some sound on here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like a drummer, you can vary by triplets. Again, this is when technical side of guitar playing comes in handy, so you can think about an idea and then be able to apply it. Something like that, like a more of a triplet feel on that. And then you'll see a lot of guitar players, they will kind of get used to one line, and then I'm actually guilty of this too, and then get really comfortable, and then every single song I play, I just go up and down on it. So please don't do that.
It's a comfort lick, right?
Yeah.
We all have them, yeah.
And the way to get out of that is, for melodic playing, is really just singing in your head. And different ideas will come to populate as you listen to different instruments, different artists, different styles. And then you can sing different things and then be able to apply that, or think about applying on guitar.
It was,
go ahead.
oh, sorry. It was you that was telling me the other day how you were at the Metallica concert and everybody was singing Kirk Hammett's solos, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not only the lyrics, but they were singing every single solo.
Yeah, that's
Obviously,
amazing.
they were a little bit off, but yeah, just that just shows that like people like Kirk Hammett, Santana, George Perry, Gary Moore, like it has a distinct sound. Then when you listen to their songs, you catch yourself singing along to the solos, and that's what I try to do as a guitar player, is always adding an edge, adding a humane factor, making more relatable, and play it like a human voice, more than just up and down. I mean, up and down, going up and down on guitar is fun, but we have to be musical. Okay, so that was kind of how I approach melodic playing, in the sense of you have a line, you have an idea, and I want to kind of get into how to elaborate on that. So we talked briefly about adding vibrato, adding bends. Pitch harmonics is one. You can do pitch harmonics. It's the same line may sound different on a 12-string guitar through a different delay pedal, different amp. So there's just endless combinations and things you can add to guitar.
You want to show them what a pitch harmonic is?
Yeah, I can try. So pitch harmonic would be...
I had no idea what it was first time somebody said that to me. So, yeah.
You can normally do a harmonic, like Metallica's song "Nothing Else Matters." I think things like that. That's a harmonic. You're usually playing distances of 12. Usually 12 frets, and then if you lightly touch the string, then it gives it a nice shimmery sound, and then a bit muted sound. It's actually really good for tuning too. If you're trying to tune your guitar, the tuner's not recognizing it, I highly recommend it. So a pitch harmonic would be if I was to move that up, for example, a D chord, you can't play this, it's a different, and then I can't play this up here and have a harmonic. So what people do is they play the D here, find a distance from here to there is 12 frets, and you kind of mute it with one hand or one finger, and then pick it with the other, so then it would be like... And then you can play like a scale.
Chiming it an octave higher,
Yeah. This guitar, the action is super low, so it's hard to do that.
Oh, yeah, it looks like it's super low.
But that would be another way to spice it up. Yep. Do you do anything
I
particularly?
do same kind of thing, just like make a C chord or something if you're ending a song.
Oh yeah, yours sounds much better. I got to practice
something like that. Well, the action on this is a little bit higher too, so a little bit easier.
Okay, so that's vibrato, pitch harmonics, rhythm. So hopefully we've given you a bit of tools to kind of think about. And all I wanted to do with you guys today is just to get you think about it, how you can apply a thought onto your guitar playing. Doesn't necessarily you don't have to be a lead player, you can be a rhythm player, you're just playing a simple melody, but how can you spice that up? So hopefully in the future we can kind of dig into that a bit more and focus on like bands and stuff like that. And we're doing okay for your time?
Oh yeah, we're doing fine, man. If you guys have any questions at all, it can be about melodic playing, it can be about any other topic that you want doesn't matter. Members, get those in right now because we're going to play a jam track here in a bit, just to kind of give an example of all the things T was talking about, and then you're going to play one more tune at the end, right?
Yeah.
So get your questions in, and if you haven't downloaded the resources yet, there's a PDF for you with the little, how to develop the little, that's a 4-note melody, how to develop that through some vibrato.
And if you guys do have questions, I'll be the guy answering you anyway, so let me know.
That's
but
right.
We're going to kind of elaborate. Do you want to just jam on that a little bit, on these lines? So let me just quickly play it. So the major one was, it's the 4-note simple melody. You got it. And then just the minor one is, so you did this slide there. There you go. Sliding up.
I didn't even realize I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known.
It's because you're thinking about it in your head and you're singing. And then
So I guess
you know how to express that.
So I wanted to hear it, I suppose.
There you go. Okay, so let's put on the jam track, and then we're just going to elaborate on that, on those notes. So.
Okay, and this jam track is available for you to download in the resources too. There's 3. There's the first song T played to, this one, and then the one he'll play at the end. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome, man. So that one little idea sparked all kind of stuff, really different stuff between me and you. I thought it was fun. And I don't do stuff like that much. I mean, usually I have a preconceived idea in my own head that I use and I go, but doing it with somebody else's idea is fun. It kind of forces you to fit into that mode of what can I do with this that's interesting? How am I going to make this a melody? Like with rhythm, bending, sliding, all those things.
That's right. So you have to have a starting point. You have to have an end point. You have to figure out how you want to get there. Just a simple line, and then you can elaborate on that using tools as bends and all that, different sounds, different guitars. But it's also magical too when you find someone else that can elaborate on the same melody as you. Like I think we had some connection,
Yeah,
we had
it was
magic
great,
happening
yeah.
there.
There's a couple times when we were warming up earlier, we played either the exact same note or like harmony notes to each other, which was fun. It was same page.
There's a lot of interaction, especially in this 70s, 60s, 70s rock, where two guitar players would play at the same time, kind of go back, call and response.
Yeah.
That usually doesn't happen anymore, and people look at you when you're trying to play a solo at the same time with someone else. But that is again a conversation, a voice of your guitar talking to his guitar here. We're having a conversation here. So,
Telling you, man, music, second best thing you can do with another person.
that's right. So if you guys noticed, we were. I think we have some questions here. If you had some questions, we can answer that.
Let's see. Go ahead and get your questions in, guys. If you have any questions, it can be about this. It doesn't have to be anything you're kind of struggling with as far as the courses or the plans, the paths in the members area. That's fine too. John Murphy has a question for you, T. He says, I took lessons from a pro jazz guitarist. He wouldn't let me use my little finger for support nor palm, but he had to find the strings with proprioception, which means he had to float his hand, right, without touching the guitar with any part of his hand. He said, I just want to play folk and Willie and Waylon country stuff, finger picking. Should I continue without support? Many thanks, Murph.
I'm sure your teacher has a reason why you're kind of pushing that. Usually you see guitar players playing a 1, 2, 3, 4 form. And sometimes they admit when they're soloing, I've even, it's common to see guitar players just kind of soloing like this. And then when they go into 1, 2, 3, 4, the pinky, instead of pinky, they use a ring finger, right?
Yeah.
Especially for jazz, the chords can be quite difficult to press and to switch between back and forth between the chords. A certain formation may be required. So that may be why he's really trying to get you to get used to using the pinky at the right places. But again, it's if you are changing your style and you want to do some picking and stuff.
I think he's talking more about on the right hand.
On the
Like
right.
when
Oh,
you
I see.
plant it, right?
Sorry.
And I came from a pretty stuffy background as far as guitar lessons.
Yeah.
It's very proper, very classical, and a little bit of jazz
Oh,
too.
I see.
So, right.
So he wants to rest.
Yeah, he wants to know about your right hand.
That's what I do actually. So I'm going to say yes to it, but if that's not proper technique. But when I do play with a pick, I do actually rest my hands on the pick guard. Usually my pinky and my ring finger. So if that's bad technique, I apologize.
I've
It
seen
seems to work for
so
me.
many. Michelangelo Badio plays all three fingers.
Yeah.
All the time. I've seen so many just amazing guitarists that my answer is it doesn't matter. I would say experiment with everything and find out what works best for you. Like when I pick finger style especially, I float, right?
That's right. Yeah, finger style I do as well.
Because of classical stuff that I learned. And a lot of times I'm pretty close to floating when I play with a pick. My
I see,
fingers
yeah,
kind
when
of
you're picking
skim
up,
and they're muting the high strings, but I don't often unless I'm palm muting.
Yeah, that's right. Then you're resting your pinky on there.
Yeah, but
That's right.
I would experiment with everything. The reason he probably told you that is because he went through the time to learn "quote unquote" proper technique, and so he thinks it's valuable, right? But like some of my favorite guitar players, I'd say the majority of them don't have proper
Yeah, it's
technique.
how you get the sounds and whatever is comfortable for your hand, as long as there's not going to be any injuries associated with it.
Right.
We actually do get these questions often. Oh, how do I do a bar chord and this and that? Your hand just gets used to it eventually. But if you notice over time that your hand's getting sore and you're not reaching different strings or different frets, then you might want to look into your technique. But I would say, other than that, like Pat Metheny. Have you ever seen Pat Metheny pick?
He looks like he has something wrong with him when he plays, man. But he's very effective.
Yeah, so he picks really weird.
Yeah,
and
like this, or
the way he's playing the notes, and he gets really into it, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing about melodic playing that I haven't mentioned. You have to get into it. You have to meditate. You have to
yeah, you can
zone
mention
out. Yeah, if you can be comfortable enough on the guitar and be able to convey the line, the melody that you're thinking about, and play it, it brings you a different kind of joy that you kind of pushes you into a zone. If you play a solo and you come out of it and you have no idea what happened, then you're doing a good job.
Well, you know, I've had that experience a couple times in life, and I don't, like you said, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's magical when that happens, right? So you have to be really into the tune. You have to be playing with the right musicians. But that would be another goal to set. Would be how comfortable you are and how much you can forget about the guitar, turning lights off, not looking at the guitar. Right? These things make you more comfortable and then forces you to think about what you're playing.
Yeah, if you can't see where the notes are, you're gonna have to rely on feel, or you're gonna have to rely on like your mind's eye, right?
That's
I
right.
guess, yeah.
Okay, so should we do an exercise on not looking at the guitar?
Sure. No, like I found it lately when I've been doing exercises like going up and down scales on each string.
That's right.
To find the and just playing through it. And I found it more effective for me if I don't even look at it. If I can visualize where I am on the guitar, like an F sharp, right there, right?
Yeah, it's easier with like open
I hope that was an F sharp.
chords up here, but then when you get into bar chords,
No man's land, F sharp.
yeah. There you go. Yeah, so I'm gonna just do a scaling. So that's one place, and you can move up on that. You can move around the guitar. So all those notes that I picked, it's just on a scale, and then I was just going up and down. Like I told you guys, it sounds different in different places that you play. The same note is meaning the same octave of a note, but it has a different tone, different timbre to it. So then really focus on that. For example, when you play a bass guitar and you're a guitar player, you'll play the bass like a guitar player, right? When you play guitar, and try to think like a bass player and see if you can really make use of the low notes and give it some texture. So I'm just throwing a whole bunch of suggestions out there. This lesson will be more of a conceptual lesson.
Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully open your eyes up a little bit.
No, I had fun doing that. Take that jam track, guys, download it, get this little motif, this 4-note theme melody that he has, and see what you can do with it. See what you can come up with. Leave space, mess with the rhythm.
Yeah. Okay, let's, we have some time, I think, so why don't we just play an A melody here. Let's just stick with the A major. The A major scale. So you can start with, I think you do a lot of lessons on this just to play it properly with the right fingering. So given those notes in that scale, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, right? Let's try to build a melody together. How about that? Let's sing it first.
Okay.
So we'll start here. I'm not a great singer, just so you know. Just a simple one. So what notes were in there, do you think? You got it.
1, 7, 6, 7, 1.
Okay, so very simple line. How do we make it more human? Just by playing the same notes without vibrato or nothing?
I'd slide.
There you go. Sliding is one, and space, and how you accentuate and when do you do that. So I sang da 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 da. It had some rhythm to it, right? Okay, let's add more to it. Da 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 da. There you go. This guy's good.
It's like the memory game, Simon.
Okay, so let's just end there because we're ending on this note here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Let's elaborate on that tone-wise. So how do we play that same melody elsewhere on the guitar and have a different feel?
So
How do we go about
A,
that?
right?
Yeah.
Well, if you know your.
So you just went up to a higher string. Yeah, it has a different sound to it. Great.
A lot different than.
And you're doing some vibrato there.
Yeah.
You're doing the other vibrato, which I don't do.
Yeah, the very subtle.
The sliding one.
Yeah.
right? So it has a total different sound to it.
Yep.
How about bending? Can you introduce some bending to that? That's great.
Yeah.
And if you actually sing the bends too, which is quite hard for me, it really brings a different feel to it, right? That'd be the scale, because I know in my head what I want to sing, and I know where it is on a guitar. Okay, so I'm going to play just the progression. Just A major and then D. And we're kind of going to solo over that using the same line. So we had something like that.
You want me to play it?
Take that, yeah. He's getting quieter as I'm getting quieter with the rhythm. You notice the notes that he's picking, how he's using his dynamics and different picking volumes. Let's bring it up a bit. Perfect. Good job, man.
And all that from one little thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a really good exercise.
Is it?
Yeah.
Just bring it up, bring it down, turn the lights off, do it again.
Yeah.
Practice. But if you notice, he was using a lot of bends, a lot of slides, a lot of different picking, like getting that string sound, picking really hard. When you're sliding into the note, you can pick hard to get more accentuation on there, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, I'm hoping this all helps, because this is kind of how I go about.
Hey, it's helping me. It's fun. I don't get a chance to play with that many. Like Andrew's the only other person, like in the last 6 months or 8 months, that I've other guitar player that I get to play with. So it's awesome. And even then, it's in an educational context. So that was more like a jam. So I got another question for you from Tech Boss.
Right.
He says, when playing with others, the one time I did it, I had trouble hearing some of the other parts. How do you deal with that?
If you have trouble hearing other musicians, I'm assuming he was just jamming along with them.
Yeah, if you want to send us
Yeah.
a follow-up question, like were they using a PA? Was it just a bunch of amps in a room? Was there a drummer there? What was the context of that, right?
Yeah, if you're soloing and you're kind of doing like a lead line or just playing rhythm, if there's a structure to the song, then you obviously want to interact with other musicians, but if you can't hear them, then you can kind of build up on that. So if you're supposed to be soloing, this happens a lot when you're playing on stage. You'll never get a perfect monitoring system, even though you spend a lot of money and get pro sounds. There's always a couple of times that you just cannot hear yourself, your guitar whatsoever. So that's when the visual aids come in handy. When you're looking at your guitar, you know what sound is supposed to be when you play. Then you can kind of elaborate on that. So if you can't hear other musicians, you still have to play, you're jamming along, then my suggestion would be, if you know the chord of the song and you know your scales or where to start, then at least you have a point you can go from there.
Right. Like one of the jam tracks earlier, I was just messing around through what T was playing with it because I never heard the song before.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, stop trying to play, just listen for a second. Okay, then, and then just keep it simple. If you can play just a couple notes and have it sound good, you're still jamming with people, it's a good place to start, right?
Yeah, that jam track is actually, it's got some beats. The bass line is kind of following the drums. you have the option of following them. You have the option of alternating, adding another texture to it. So maybe that's a good exercise too that you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Maybe try to play with the drums and the bass in that jam track. It's called Jam in B. I think it's a B major or B minor, blues scale, whichever you prefer. Just try to alternate, try to go with the music in the back, and then kind of do off time things. So accenting on the one and two and on your playing. That's again thinking like a drummer. So I play different instruments. So sometimes I come back to guitar. I think like a bass player. I think like a drummer. Sometimes a singer. I don't have the voice for it, but I sing in my head.
One other thing that helps when you're playing. Oh, we got our follow-up question.
Awesome.
Let me see. 5 guitarists sitting in a circle just jamming. Okay.
Okay.
One thing that helped me on the last, I think it was the last jam track that Tee's going to play too. I was kind of noodling around too. I was like, well, forget this. I'm not even going to try to play major or minor chords. I was just playing power chords.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier to find just the root really quickly when the chords are going by than it is, okay, is that major or minor? So just don't be afraid to just play power chords too. So
Usually when not many people are playing together, it usually involves like a blues progression, then everyone knows what it's supposed to go like, or if it's a song that you know together. But like we did, we just kind of stuck with A major and D. If you guys were kind of jamming around chords that you know, usually we take turns in communicating, right? He was doing solo, I was doing solo, we're doing solo together. So that's what I would focus on. If you are jamming with people and you can't hear yourself, you should tell them, let me take this one, quiet down. Because another big thing about guitar playing is dynamics and fitting with the band, right? You can't go crazy at all times.
Cool. Cool. I think that does it for the questions. Next week's live show, it's going to be a Fretboard Chronicles, and it's going to be very special. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet, but it's going to blow your socks off, especially if you're into acoustic and fingerstyle music at all. So just keep an eye out for that. Tee, thanks a lot for coming out and doing this today. Really appreciate it. That was
My
fun
pleasure.
jamming with you,
My
man.
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You got one more song for us, right?
I do, yes.
Okay, cool.
I'll give you a bit of background story on that. It's called 10 Seconds. I used to be in a band called Sonus. It's alternative kind of rock band. Lots of drum solos, guitar solos.
Nice.
So I just recently pulled that up, and I thought this would be fitting. As far as melodic guitar goes, you'll notice there's the scales that I'm using interchange a little bit depending on the backing of the song. So you want to really listen in for the rhythm, and then I'm soloing over it, trying to match the changes in the back.
Cool. All right, guys.
Should we have a go?
Yeah. See you next week.
All right, thank you.